backyard, yeah, we have some trees.
Okay, we're live, everybody.
Oh, what?
Yeah, you can see in the corner there. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Mu-tini Hour. I'm Lily Tung Crystal. I'm the Artistic Director of Theater Mu in the Twin Cities. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. And tonight, you know, it's a special night tonight because it's the first day of Asian Pacific American Heritage Month, which is all of May. So we at Theater Mu are taking full advantage of that. And tonight we're in honor of Asian American Heritage Month, we're bringing you Mu's remarkable origin story. So we have here the man who started it all, the OG, Rick Shiomi, who co-founded Theater Mu, and he's joined by some of Mu's and the nation's favorite theater artists, Jen Weir, who is the director and executive director, who is a director and the executive director of Taiko Arts Midwest. And she's joined by actors Katie Bradley and Paul Juhn, who've worked at Mu and at regional theaters around the country, including Oregon Shakespeare Festival, the Guthrie, the Public, and Berkeley Rep. Welcome, all of you.
Hello.
Hey. Hi.
Hey.
Hi. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, of course. This is so exciting. And so, as we do in all Mu-tini hours, we start with a toast. So, what is everyone drinking tonight?
OJ.
Beer, cider.
In a martini glass, though. What do you have, Jen and Paul?
Sparkling water.
I'm starting with beer and then I'll probably switch.
What are you going to switch to?
More beer.
Nice.
And Katie, what do you got?
I have water because of my challenge.
Oh, right. So we're going to tell you about the challenge in a second. I have I have a whiskey sour. That's what I have. And it's if you see here, it's in a Minnesota glass. I don't know if you can see.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I got these from my sister-in-law, Lily Crystal, who is also Mu donor and supporter. And she gave these to me for my birthday in honor of being in Minnesota. She actually also lives here randomly. She moved out here as well, like right before we did.
That's crazy.
Cool.
Really?
Yeah, for those who don't know, I moved here in August with my family, Eric, my husband, and Cole, my son, and his sister, and my brother-in-law, Lisa and Mark, they moved out here in January. So like 8 months before we did. It was totally coincidental. So life just works out that way sometimes. And I think she's watching tonight, so shout out to Lisa. Thanks for the glasses. So cheers, everybody.
Cheers. Kanpai.
Kanpai.
Happy Asian American Heritage Month. So we're doing, a few things. I also want to toast all of you out there who are joining us. All our fans and supporters. This is I think our 7th Mu-tini hour, and you've made them super fun. And we've been really enjoying the lively chats with all of you in the chat room. If you'd like to give a shout out to us or send us a comment or question, please get it in the chat, and our fearless producer, Kevin Duong, will send them to us, and we'll try to get to as many of the questions as possible that you have for us tonight. And please feel free to share the video with your friends. You can do that by clicking share to the right of your screen of the try to get to as many video of the questions. And sorry, I have the Zoom up also on my Facebook Live, and the sound was on, so I had to turn that off. This is live TV, everybody, or live broadcast anyway. And so you could share the video, and also if you could sign in. Signing in really helps us. We know that you can watch, it's free, but if you sign in, it helps us share with our donors and funders the impact and reach we're making at Theater Mu. And Kevin will get the sign-in link into the Facebook chat. So please do that. Any other things? Oh, for those of you who don't know about Theater Mu, because I know we have a national and international audience sometimes, we're the 2nd largest Asian American theater company, and we really work at the intersection of high quality theater and social activism. So if you like the work we're doing, if you like what you see tonight, please feel free to donate. There is a donate button also to the right of your Zoom screen on Facebook Live. And we also encourage you to donate to the organizations that are with us tonight, including Jen's organization, Taiko Arts Midwest. And we'll get the link in the chat for you for that as well. So, okay, last but not least, before we start our conversation, I wanted to introduce a new segment we're doing tonight on Mu-tini Hour. We're really excited. So not every week, but some weeks, especially when we have Twin Cities artists on, we're going to do a segment getting takeout from a different Asian restaurant in the Twin Cities. And Kevin is going to show there. A group made this bingo card with Asian restaurants on it to see how many Asian restaurants one could go to, and if you would hit a bingo. Kevin, can you show that? While he's getting that up, so we have a new segment that we're introducing called Katie's Speedy Delivery, and that's Katie Bradley's segment. So on Katie's Speedy Delivery, Katie is going. Did you just what happened? You just made an order to Apoy?
Yeah, I did. I made an order right before we got on live here.
So Katie made an order to Apoy for all of us in the Twin Cities. That's me, Rick, and Jen. And sorry, Paul. Paul's in Westchester, so he can just pretend
Not happy
to
about
eat the food.
What?
And so we this is the bingo. These are the Asian restaurants, and we're starting with Apoy because our one of the original OGs at Theater Mu, Sherwin Resurrection, it's his restaurant, and we want to give him a shout out. And we love the food there. And Apoy has been a really big part of my early life in Twin Cities. I've gone there with like Brian Kim and a lot of the other Asian American theater artists and just hung out there to do karaoke night. Oh, here's some food photos from Apoy of the food we're getting tonight.
It's awesome.
And they have karaoke on Saturdays, and they have this kamayan, which is a Filipino feast you eat with your hands. It's delicious. So Katie made an order, and the challenge for Katie's Speedy Delivery this Mu-tini Hour is she has to go pick it up and deliver it to all of us and get home by 8 o'clock.
What time is it right now?
7:08.
7:08. Okay.
Do you think you can do it?
Time is.
Or
I
should
know.
we give you more time?
Give me an hour.
Okay,
once
we'll
I
give
get
you an
into
hour.
the
So
car.
we'll how about 8:08?
Yeah, that sounds good on the 808.
That's lucky in Chinese. You know, 8s are lucky. So 8:08. So Katie's going to go, and she's going to be part of this conversation, but she's going to go pick up food at Apoy. We're going to be Resurrection, and then she's going to deliver it to each of our houses. And we're going to see if she can make it by 8:08. Okay, good luck, Katie.
It's funny to do this and I should note that I'm not the one driving. It's because that would be dangerous, and that would not be good live television. But
Or great live television. I don't know.
Or really awesome, like Katie risks her life. But my partner Lars is going to be driving, and he has a nice, fast, snazzy car. So we're gonna go in that.
What kind of snazzy car does he have?
He has a Honda SI, which is really funny because it's like this really nice, it's like this fast sports car that he rarely drives. So this is going to be funny. I don't think he's driven since we've been in lockdown. So, yay.
Okay. Well, be safe. Is Lars there
yeah.
to say hi to him? Does he want to?
He went up to the car to make sure.
Oh, he's in the car. Okay. So we'll see Lars in the car.
Running, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Trip. Don't trip.
We'll have Katie. Katie will be on her way. And while she's moving, we will have this. We'll try to have this conversation about Theater Mu. Lots going on tonight on the first day of Asian Pacific American Heritage Month. Well, thanks, Katie, for doing that. So how are you all doing? Like you're sheltering in place, obviously. Jen, Katie, and Rick are in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and Paul's in Westchester, New York. How's everyone like dealing and coping? And
Paul, let's hear what's happening.
Yeah, we're good. Yeah, we're at home. My wife and Lucas, my 8-year-old. It's Friday night, so usually movie nights. So they're in the midst of watching the end of Wall-E tonight. But yeah, we're good. Yeah, we're fortunate. We're together. And, we've been together for many days now, but it's all good. It's all good. Yeah.
Great. And how are you all doing, Rick and Jen?
I'm pretty much eating my way through this quarantine nonstop. And when I'm not doing that, trying to distract my daughter from her iPad is pretty much the two things I'm doing.
Oh yes, Jennifer also has a young child. I have a 10-year-old, and Jennifer's Josie is 9.
Yep.
Yeah.
Alright.
So I think the big challenge for a lot of parents is getting the iPad away from our kids. And how are you doing? How are you doing, Rick and Martha? Martha is Rick's wife, who also co-founded Theater Mu.
Yeah, we're doing fine. We're our phrase is it's lucky we like each other. We're fortunate to be in a house where she has her executive suite on the second floor, and I have my man cave in the basement. And we're able to meet up once in a while during the day. And so every once in a while she'll say, "Hey, let's have a time to talk." After we spent 24 hours in the house, but we haven't had a chance to talk. So it's one of those funny things.
Right. I totally hear that. I mean, like, I'm also in the house with my husband and my son, but there's sometimes I'm working so much that I don't see them until like after dinner. Like sometimes I'll miss even dinner with them. So yeah, like tonight actually a point will come and then they'll probably eat before me. But yeah, so I totally get that. It's funny how that happens. We're in the same room, same house, but yet you don't see each other. So Rick, we wanted to talk about the origin story of Mu because I find it really remarkable, and Katie's in the car, I'm noticing. So is everything okay in there?
Oh yeah, Lars is driving. He knows how to get to a point.
Okay.
Can we say hi to Lars?
Oh yeah, let me see how to switch. I've never done Zoom on my phone, so this is interesting. Okay. There's Lars.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lars.
What's
We
the road?
appreciate it.
Thanks, Lars. So you know, I've told a lot of people since I've been here. I've only been here since August, so this is my 8th month, or this is my 9th month, and I'm really astonished by how strong Mu's community is. Like, people are so loyal to Mu, and from the artists to the supporters to the fans, and I've never quite seen anything like it anywhere else in the country at a theater. So I feel really blessed to be part of that community and to have such a strong force at Theater Mu. And I'm wondering for you, Rick, tell us because you co-founded it with Martha and I'm wondering, and some other people, and I'm wondering what brought you to the Twin Cities to start this journey?
Yeah. Well, to begin with, I had always considered Minnesota flyover country because I was doing theater work on the West Coast and in New York. But in the around 1990, I actually reluctantly went to a theater and higher education conference where I met Martha, and I met a young graduate student at the U of M, Dong-il Lee. And it's, in fact, it was Dong-il Lee who approached Martha and myself to help start the company. And because I had visited the Twin Cities, but had never thought that you could start an Asian American theater company here. I was too smart to think that. But Dong-il Lee was one of those idealistic young people, and he wanted to start the company and knew that I had been in Asian American theater. And because I had worked with Martha and she was a professor of theater at Augsburg College, he asked both of us to separately to help him start the company. So the three of us, plus then he went out and found Diane Espaldon, who became one of the co-founders, but also the first managing director. And so that was key. In fact, one of the first things I said to Dong-il Lee was I don't want to start a company without somebody that's going to run the organization, because two artists are not going to run an organization. So he found Diane Espaldon at the Asian American Renaissance when that was first starting up in the early 1990s. So by the time we got to 1992 is when we basically formed the company. And then I remember in some of the early workshops, Paul was one of the early members of one of those workshops or meeting sessions. And the two things I remember about Paul, now that he's a famous actor, famous accomplished actor, I can now say the things that I couldn't say to him then. Was that I always remembered in one of the sessions, he said that he was an economics major or something like that.
I was a history major, actually.
But that he, hey,
Is this
hello.
Lucas?
This is Lucas.
Hey, Lucas.
Hi, Lucas.
Boy, he's going to go to college soon. If they have college when he's there. But he said that he was interested in performing. And so I always took a note of that. And then the joke is that when we did our first New Eyes Festival, the very first kind of public performances we did, we were in rehearsal, and I don't know if I ever said this to Paul, but mentioned this to Paul, so this is live TV, is that Dong-Yul and I had a conversation where we thought Paul was so terrible that we were going to fire him from but we thought that is too cruel to fire somebody from their very first gig and our very first gig. But then what happened? But we said, no, we'll let it happen and see what happens. And
What show was that?
our first New Eyes Festival. He was in
the New Eyes
a few of the
Festival,
people,
okay.
yeah. And then what happened though was that Paul was actually very good in it. And so he was almost like a natural. And so we thought, wow, that's interesting. And what we realized, of course, is that Paul had no experience in theater, so he didn't know what rehearsal was for. He just was a performer. And so he was terrific. And so then for the next 2 or 3 years before he disappeared on us, he was our kind of leading man, in a sense, in Paper Angels and in Yellow Fever when we did that the first time. So it was really interesting. But the core artist group really, I think, had a sense of that family and that sort of group identity, in a sense, and the importance. Like, I think it's different here because in New York or LA or San Francisco, there are so many Asian American, even back then, there were so many Asian American theater artists trying to get in. It wasn't like you needed people, you know what I mean? There was always people around. But in the Twin Cities, we needed every single person that had any interest in theater to give them an opportunity. And so I think that's part of why that kind of loyalty and that kind of togetherness really has been a sort of a hallmark of Mu.
Right. And Paul, had you heard that story before, or is this the first time?
Never. No, I do know I had the deer in the headlights look pretty much down from the start, so that doesn't surprise me at all. But
So you almost got fired from your first theater job, and now you're working at like OSF in the public and such. So I guess you've come a long way since that very first show at Theater Mu.
Could I give a quick note? Is
Sure.
that, as I said, in the first 2.5, 3 years, Paul was like doing most of our shows, but then one day he disappeared, and now Paul will explain what happened.
What do you mean? What do you mean? What was that?
You went off to Chicago to audition.
Oh, where I went from there.
Yeah,
oh, I see.
Yeah.
Well, I did hear that story early, and I never forgot it, so I left. No, I'm kidding. Well, as I was telling Lily earlier, yeah, I mean, I think one thing I wanted to point out with Rick is with this whole New Eyes Festival, when I think about it, it's just like these stories that needed to be or wanted to be told or needed to be told, but there was certainly this kind of an urgency, and you found a lot of young artists who didn't have much experience, whether it was performing or writing. And this was such a great opportunity to get these stories out, to hear these voices. And I mean, for me, yeah, I had zero experience, but it was like, it was all new. I mean, it was new for a lot of these folks. And I mean, I have really great memories because I think that New Eyes Festival, was it in like, I'm trying to remember the space.
93. It was at the intermediate.
Sort of chaotic how it happened, but we all did this. But what's that?
It was at the Intermediate Space
Intermediate Arts Center or
downtown.
something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Intermediate
yeah.
Arts downtown.
In 1993.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ah, wow. Anyway, these amazing stories are coming out, and they're really diverse stories too. So and I was telling Lily earlier too, is that it was like really great training, you know, to be able to tell these stories, and they were so different too. And you know, I was fortunate, I got to be part of a lot of these different New Eyes Festival stories, and to see these young people have an opportunity to get their voice out there. So
Well, we have
appreciate
some
it.
shout outs. Yeah, I mean, you've made it. I mean, after that first step with Mu, you've made such a huge career out of that initial training. And there's some fans out there, Paul. So Leviathan Lab says, dreamy Paul Juhn, dreamy Paul Juhn. I didn't know that was your
Checks in the mail.
moniker. And Brian Kim says, nice shirt, Paul. And and Ariel Estrada says, Rick is awesome. And finally, Josephine Lee sends her love to all of you, and especially to Josie and Martha. And Roger Tang says hi. So a lot of our fans and fellow Asian American theater artists are out there watching.
That's awesome.
And Jen, you were part of that early time as well, right? You came in like in 94 or something?
Yeah, around 95, I think, somewhere in there. Right, I think Paul, you had just left, so I think I just missed.
Tia and then Jen came in. Yeah.
Yeah, so I started my first gig with Mu as an understudy, knowing that there was a few performances that the main actress couldn't do, so I went on as an understudy. It was my first gig after college, and I remember one point where I was backstage and I had gotten confused about a costume change, thinking I needed to do this costume change when in fact I needed to be on stage, and the stage manager came running back, is like, why aren't you on stage? So yeah, I was awesome.
But I think I mean, I taught, you know, Katie Bradley came in later, I think in 2006, Katie?
Yeah, it was 2006 when I did my first show.
And I remember you both, we talked earlier this week, and both of you had said that before you came to Theater Mu, you were like, I don't need what is Asian American theater? Like, I just want to do theater. And Theater Mu was the first place you really discovered your community, your Asian American community. And if you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, Katie, go.
Well, first off, hold up, we're at a poi real quick.
Oh, yay.
Okay. Jen, you
All right,
go.
I'll take
Let
over.
her.
So Jen, you
go
go.
get the food. That's more important.
I know we have our priorities. Come on,
And,
Asian
you know,
people.
I have to say, I got to tell everybody out there, I mean, a lot of you are Asian Americans, so you know this already, but for those of you who are not Asian, everything about Asian American theater has to do with food. Like, if you do an Asian American show, at least what you can count on is that there's gonna be really good food in the rehearsal room, because we're obsessed with food. So this is just par for the course, and also par for the course for Theater Mu as well. Okay, Katie's got her mask on. She's going. So Jen, what were you gonna say?
Oh, just when I moved to the cities right after college to be an actor, Theater Mu was my first introduction to other Asians, period. I grew up as a Korean adoptee in Minot, North Dakota. So I had no reference for what community was, what other Asians were like. And as far as I knew, I really wasn't Asian. And it wasn't until I started working with Mu and being involved in those stories and meeting awesome people that suddenly, like, this idea of what Asian American could be started to take shape. So I feel like not only did I cut my teeth as an artist, I totally grew up as a human being and like found myself and my pride and my community. And I really profoundly changed my life in a way that just being in a play doesn't do. It was huge for me. Oh my God. Yeah, that's fun.
Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, is that you?
I'm in green.
Oh wow. Wow, so you're in green. This is masked.
No, this is
this?
Legend of the White Snake Lady.
Oh, okay.
And Jen was Green Lady.
Yes,
In green.
Cool.
That's funny.
Wow. That was for 1995, excuse me.
Oh, and also through Theater Mu, and when I joined the cast of Mask Dance, that was the first time I met other Korean adoptees who were in theater. And that to me was an absolute revelation that there, number one, could be other Korean adoptees out there. And of course, now I know that there's hundreds of thousands of us. But two, that another Korean adoptee would like theater like me seemed just absolutely astounding. Like I couldn't believe it. So it's kind of funny.
Yeah. So Rick, and thanks, Jen. I mean, that's really powerful, just a powerful background and to discover. I mean, I think all of us as Asian American theater artists have that point where we discover what our community is and what that means to each of us. And it's so different. It's so individual for each of us, right? And Rick, when at that time, there weren't that many Asian American theater artists here, right? Not like now, like Mu is, it's now its 28th year. And, you know, our artists are working nationally and internationally, and like all the artists here. And so I think Katie had to put her screenshot up for a second while she went to get the food. But I'm wondering, when you first started, there's this myth, right? That, or you say it's a myth. People keep telling me the story that you would go to Chinese restaurants and ask the waiters if they could act, and then ask them if they wanted to act, and give them your card. So what are the things you did to sort of get this off the ground, being that you were in a city where there wasn't a lot of Asian American theater happening at that time?
I think and that is a myth. It may be true, but I think it's a myth personally. But my memory is so vague back then, I don't know what I did. But the main thing that I think happened, the main source of the origins of the company were in a group of students from the U of M that Dong Lee knew. Among them, people like Ed Barkley and some of the others. And then they knew people like Paul, who I think he had just graduated, right?
I actually, right before that, I was in Korea teaching English. And
oh, okay. Yeah.
like yeah, I know Ed from back then too.
Right. So there was these sort of small pockets, and then Asian American Renaissance was starting. And so there were some people through that. And so it was really that connected kind of group. And then there was actually, as Jen is saying, there was actually among those were a group of Korean adoptees who were themselves just getting out of college and just starting to ask questions about who they were and what was going on, and how they ended up being who they were, in a sense. And then our first really major production was Mask Dance, and it was basically about the Korean adoptee stories that we had sort of realized were these powerful stories that had not made it to the stage. So all of us sort of, and then in an odd way, that phrase, if you build it, they will come, happened. That in a sense that once we had started the company, then gradually as a trickle, but gradually more and more people started coming in. So like Jen was one of the first of that wave of people who just literally came in and said, oh, there's an Asian American theater company here. I might as well check it out, even though I may not think I'm Asian American, and so, and indeed she qualified, and I kind of think of Jen as the person who came running down the street, clicking her heels, and suddenly magic happened. And then she ended up acting in shows. She ended up directing Little Shop of Horrors, which was a fantastic production. And then, of course, she took over Taiko, which became this whole another journey that we may get a chance to talk about.
Yes. Katie, how are you doing? Is Sherwin there with you?
He is not here. I think he had a big rush of orders, but I think he might be coming out. I see him. There he is.
He has to come out and say hi at least.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah, because Sherwin was also part of this initial group of people. And Rick, thanks so much for talking about you know, like I really love that analogy, that metaphor, that if you build it, they will come. Because a movie that I just saw recently, actually for the first time, I'm a big baseball fan, but I'd never seen Field of Dreams. And because I think there's this, you know, there's this misperception that there, you know, those Asian American artists are, or not, I think now it's better, but there, in the last 10, 20 years there and longer, there's been this misperception that those artists aren't out there. Like the talent isn't out there, so we can't do the shows. We can't program Asian American theater. We can't program Asian American plays because we can't cast it. And those, you know, we don't have any Asian American directors or whatnot. But I feel like if you commit to doing the work, if you commit to the diverse work and the work surrounding equity, diversity, and inclusion, then when you work hard at finding the right people to cast in your show, those people are out there.
Absolutely.
I think you're like the greatest proof. Theater Mu is the greatest proof of that.
Thank you. Yeah, I really believe that. And the people are out there, and you know, people like Jen and Katie, and as you know, in the first wave, a lot of the people had no training, but then people like Jen and Katie and Sarah Oakes and a bunch of the others who came really in the second wave as well already had training. They were coming out of BA theater programs, and so then that made that whole process so much quicker. And suddenly, you know, Eric Sharp and you know, and in Sherwin, even though he didn't have training, he was actually in shows at his college. So he really, so all of that. And then the other thing is that so many times, as you say, people assume that Asian Americans, there's not Asian American actors or musical theater performers or whatever, but they are out there, and they just have to be cultivated and recruited and given the opportunity. I think that's the key, is given the opportunity, and they show tremendous talent. I mean, that's just been the remarkable, powerful thing about it is how much talent these artists have.
Yeah, if you make space at the table, then
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they can partake of the feast. Hey, Katie, I'm seeing you were there. How are you doing?
Oh wait, what's that? I don't know if he's trying to say my name. I thought I heard him say Katie.
Your time is ticking away, so I want to be mindful of that.
Yeah.
I know.
Well,
I'm not sure where he is.
I was gonna give you a warning, Katie, because
I know I should have known this.
No, I went to get takeout at Apoy the other day, and I sort of watched like 4 other orders go by me before I got mine.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. I mean, the good thing is that he's busy. I think he's pretty busy.
That's good. Yeah.
So that makes me happy. But I think he's I mean, it's just him and Sean, you know, holding down the fort.
Right, Sean is Sherwin's brother. Do you think we should just move forward, or is he going to come out? Do you think?
I think he'll come out. I think he's rushing through the kitchen, and
You better come out.
but we don't have the food yet, so I can't really proceed anyway.
So. Oh, you don't have the food yet. Oh, okay.
No. But in the meantime,
that's what I mean.
I assumed you had the food. I'm sorry.
No. If I did, then I mean, I'd be like, whatever, Sherwin. But sorry, I missed some of that conversation. I missed some of the convo because so this live television, whatever this is. Lars had inputted all of the addresses for everybody, and it was not his fault because I forgot the sheet that had everybody's addresses, and he had inputted it into Google Maps, and then he pushed the wrong button, and then erased everybody's addresses.
Okay,
then I was like, oh, but then I was able to find everybody's. But so I don't know if y'all heard me being like, what? And then, you know, scrambling, but that's just, you know, how it goes. And so I found everybody's stuff, but it just, I wasn't sure if my headshot popped up on my video or what it was, or if you actually heard me, because I forgot the shoot. So that's
wait, we didn't hear you. So do you have, do you need us to text you?
It was like,
it suddenly was me in, like, was it my headshot that popped up?
Yes.
For a little
Yes.
bit. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So suddenly I look 10 years younger. So yay.
Yeah.
But no, I've got everything. It's all good. It just it was that look of horror that I don't know if it registered or if I cut out earlier, but it's really funny. And so now Lars is in his car. He's like, "I'm sorry." I'm like, "It's okay. It's okay. Everything's okay."
It's
No,
okay.
it
Do you
actually
need
is
us to send you our addresses? Are you good?
No, we're good now. We got
Okay.
it.
Okay.
Uh,
So did you want to comment on like what it meant for you in terms of, because we were talking about just the early years and like people coming in and finding, and Jen was talking about how she found her Asianness, sort of. I mean, I don't want to say it that way, but she found her like Asian community
yeah.
at Mu.
Yeah, I think for me it I love how I've got like the sunset in the background. But for me when I initially was so I had met Rick while I was in college at Gustavus Adolphus College because I was doing some sort of career exploration. And at that time as an adoptee, I was sort of in tune with what was going on, but and my feelings about my identity, but not really. I hadn't really dived into it. And then but I wanted to do a career exploration with Mu. And so I had actually met Rick. Sorry, I realized that my microphone. I had actually met Rick for a brief period of time, and he had run into the room and with his briefcase like he does, and just very businesslike. He's like, "Okay, hi, how are you doing? You know, okay," but not ever in a bad way, but more like he was very busy, and me as like a 19-year-old kid, I was just like, "Oh my God, it's Rick Shiomi," and we had met for like, I'd say an hour, and I actually don't even remember half of that conversation because I think I was just so intimidated. But then, and again, he wasn't being mean or anything like that. It was more just like me being 19 and just trying to like have words in my mouth and talk and speak them. But then when in 2005, he was having auditions for
Live broadcast, y'all.
Live theater.
Live broadcast, yes.
I have so much stimuli going on right now. So sorry if I'm not making sense. And I also have friends who are texting me, and y'all need to stop. Because I keep seeing texts come in, and I'm like, oh my God.
Like, Katie's on TV. We have to, Katie's live on Facebook. We need to text her.
I know, that's what they're doing. But in 2005, when they were doing Midsummer Night's Dream, I had, oh my God. So I got like, I signed up for an audition, and but then got sick. I got a cold and a bad cough, and I decided that I was just going to cancel my audition and just not even try to go in or try to do a subsequent audition. Because in my mind at that time, I was like, you know what? I don't need an Asian American theater company to boost my career. I can do this by myself. By myself, meaning I can go and do like all these, and go and audition for all these other places and stuff, and not have it be because I'm Asian that I need these opportunities or anything like that. I just was very defiant. And but then an actor, as it turned out, had dropped out of the show, and so some parts were moved around, and Rick had contacted me and said, "Hey, would you like to play Hermia?" And in my mind, I'm like, "You want me to play one of the leads? Like, that's fantastic." And so I got very excited, and the first time that I walked into the room, I don't think I really truly understood what it meant to be in a room full of Asian people. But as
Actually, this is Rick.
oh, okay, that sounds good. Oh, okay, all right. This is good. This is good.
And
All right.
And what happened?
I know. I'm gonna keep y'all in suspense. So Rick, your order is up. We are
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, and so it was really great to be able to just be in this space with all these Asian people. And like I remember very specifically the Mayano Ochi, who used to be in the Mu company, and now she's actually a midwife in Los Angeles. But she was playing Helena, and I sat right next to her and in the room, and she turned to me and she looked at me like with these huge eyes. She's like, "Are you Japanese?" And I was like, "Oh no, I'm not." She's like, "Oh." And she looked super disappointed. And I mean, she and I are like, she's one of my best friends now, but it cracked me up. But yeah, that's my disjointed story. Sorry.
No, you're totally eloquent, despite all the stimuli.
Okay.
So,
good.
And so we have a couple questions from the audience. And well, first of all, let's a couple comments. Rose Chu says she remembers being in the first New Eyes Festival with Paul.
Rose, yeah.
Yes, Rose.
And gosh, Will Dow, who is a member of the Ferocious Lotus Theater Company, which is the company that I founded in San Francisco. He says I love Paul Juhn. So Paul has got this little fan club out there. I think you planned that. And Emma Hyun Jin Valentine, and I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name, says I'm a Korean adoptee and was a freshman in college when I met Rick. And so Roger Chang had a question for all of you, including Rick, is what's been so astounding is that Mu is a leader nationally. Everyone from LA to New York to Seattle looks to them for guidance. How did that occur?
Interesting. I actually don't know. Although I could speculate from my perspective, but I'm sure Jen and Paul could talk to it, is that we were part of the first kata founding. And so I was one of the artistic directors that was, along with Tim Dang and a bunch of others, to form it. And I think that was really the beginning of the sort of this national network. And because I feel like prior to that, all the Asian American theater companies were their own fiefdoms in a way, their own kind of little kingdoms. And they really didn't have time, or everyone was working so hard to create their own work that they didn't really have time to connect to each other a lot. And I think kata really finally sort of made them aware that there was way more sort of national networking that could be done. And so for Mu, that became a great vehicle for starting to have a national profile and starting to have national connections. But, I'm sure people like, Paul, because he's been out there, even though he came from Mu, he's been out there so long that he's made contacts with all those people nationally. And Jen in Taiko has made all the contacts nationally. So I think that has really sort of had an impact on getting our presence, our name out there in a way.
What do you think, Jen and Paul? Like, Paul, that you've gone out of the state now. You're from Minneapolis, St. Paul, but you now live in New York. And Jen, you've been here and a Mu artist, but now leading Taiko, which is an offshoot of what Mu was doing before. Do you have any thoughts on or insights into what, having been kind of at Mu and then now doing other things, what Mu has held for you and for Asian American theater in general in terms of the impact it's had?
For me, I think it's because Rick was always interested and invested in finding new voices, new playwrights, and taking chances on them in the same way he would take chances on actors and directors. And so in that way, you know, when your play is produced for the first time, you have a really strong sort of affinity for that theater company who took that first chance on you. And I think Rick kind of did that inherently. And it's sort of part of his makeup. I also think that Rick created
just let me interject. Lauren Yee's first major professional production, directed by you and Ching Chong Chinaman. So that was a case of what you're talking about.
But I also think that Rick was really, well, I think this sort of happens in taiko too, that being in Minnesota and not on the coasts, there's a little bit of where the isolation works for you, in that you're willing to do things and nobody's going to tell you you can't or judge you, and you're like, this is what we want to do, let's do it. And so if you want to do a musical and have never produced a musical before, then you can do Pacific Overtures because no one's telling you you can't. It's awesome. And I think that that willing to take those kind of risks, and also to let artists lead in some ways and create spaces where even if you didn't necessarily have a specific vision for a type of play or a genre or sort of an area to explore, the artists themselves would bring it up, and then you would make space for that. And I don't know that that's always the case in other theater companies in general, that you're willing to say, oh, you're all excited about something, all right, let's do it. So I really credit you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. I think with Theater Mu, I mean, I just seeing from whatever coast I was on, I could see that Rick and Theater Mu would give these young writers a chance to, whether you're locally in Minneapolis or in New York. Someone like Lauren Yu is a great example, you know. But to have that opportunity to do it in Minneapolis, I mean, that in one way is just making that relationship, you know. And I also see what Rick was saying about all of these theater companies or Asian American theater communities having their own kind of fiefdoms kind of thing. And I think with Kata, it's kind of all been kind of brought together. And I think it crosses over now so much, you know. And I feel like I've met so many actors from the West Coast that I work with, the Mai Theater Writers Lab. There's so many writers in that group alone that, I mean, they might live in New York, but they're all from different places. But yeah, definitely Kata has brought a lot of people together. And I think Rick is a big part of that, you know.
Yeah. Gosh, there's so much. So Rick, in terms of, you know, I asked all the people who are on tonight, Jen and Paul and Katie, because what I'm so astounded by is that you took people like, I mean, Jen and Katie had experience coming in, a theater experience coming into Mu, but Paul admittedly like had little, and then you went off to UCSD to get your MFA, and then have a career. And so my question for a lot of them, and I think I asked you also, Rick, is how, and maybe it's just that, it's like making the space is enough. And I'm wondering how you take those people who have very little experience in theater and then build them into being this national force. Because it's quite remarkable, right?
Yeah, I think that it's a mix, because certainly there were, as I said, in the early years, the first 5 to 7 years, way more people that we worked with that didn't have experience in training in theater, didn't have training in theater in a sense. But I would say after 2004, a majority of the people that came to the company had some form of training to begin with. So it wasn't like starting from scratch, you know,
right.
in that kind of sense. But the reality is that even if you've got an undergrad, you know, BA in theater, those first 5 or 6 years out of college are really hard to get opportunities to. And one of the things that I always remember from B.D. Wong talking to me was that one of the big challenges for Asian Americans theater artists is that they simply don't get as much stage time opportunity that sort of people in the mainstream companies do, in a sense. And so, and without that, it really slows your growth. It really slows your development, in a sense. And so what Mu became, and as you say, it became this space where we could give the opportunities to those people to allow their development. And then we had enough experienced people like myself and Martha, and we brought in some other experienced directors early on. And then we had people like developing opportunities with Jen doing Little Night Music and doing Ching Chong Chinaman. I mean, those were remarkable productions in a sense. And so I think that really, creating that space, but also one of the things that I really feel strongly about is the ability to judge talent, to see in a person, even if they don't have experience or if they have some training, but that they have some innate talent that you think is going to be valuable or useful and is worth developing. And all of these people, Katie, Jen, Paul, all had that quality in a sense. And so in that sense, that was really, I think, the key is, and one of the things, I mean, one of my favorite stories actually in relationship to Pacific Overtures was simply that, when I first thought of the idea of doing Pacific Overtures, I was hoping, we were thinking of the small cast version, the 13 actor cast version. And I was thinking of maybe if we had 3 or 4 of those actors in that production be Asian American, I would have been happy, because that would have been simply a step toward developing Asian American musical theater performers, which I thought was going to be really hard. But when we did the auditions, we had all of these Asian American theaters, people like Sarah Oakes, the wonderful Sarah Oakes, Lorraine Price. So many of these musical theater artists came out, and we were able to cast the whole show, all 13 roles with Asian American performers in the Twin Cities, out of the middle of nowhere, in a sense. And so then I asked Sarah, I said, well, why haven't I seen you audition for us before for Theater Mu? And she said, well, you don't do musicals. And so I thought, oh my God, so maybe we better start doing musicals. And we discovered so many people through that. And one of the most rewarding experiences for me in theater was directing the musicals that we did. When I ended up directing, because Pacific Overtures was directed by Gary Gisselman, very experienced director. But I learned a lot from him. And then when we started doing them ourselves, like the Walleye Kid or then Filipino Hearts, and then we got into the Sondheim, Into the Woods and A Little Night Music. It was just amazing, the cast that we were able to put together.
Yeah, and I think we have some pictures, don't we, Kevin, of Pacific Overtures? We had some production, pre-production photos, perhaps. And so I love that you thought you could only cast like 3 or 4 people, and then it became the whole cast.
Yeah,
because this is Pacific Overtures, correct?
There's Sherwin. There's Sherwin with the headband. And
right,
Arnold.
Sherwin's in the head. There's Sherwin.
Yeah,
so he's
Sherwin
the one cooking for us right now.
That's right. He's cooking. He's using that very sword to chop the meat.
Can I just say?
But that's Arnold Felizardo, wonderful musical theater performer.
Katie, what were you going to say, Katie?
Sherwin took all the bags back into the restaurant.
Why did he do that?
I don't know. I think I don't know. I'm just going with it. I'm going with it.
You get an extension. You get an extension,
funny.
Katie, to the end of Mu-tini hour, which is 8:30 our time. Okay. Well,
it cracked me up.
He's probably trying to get it perfect.
He is, and he. I mean, it smells really good. Like I smelled the bags, and then he all of a sudden like ran out of the restaurant. Y'all didn't see it because it was just on my face, and he ran to Lars's car, and grabbed all the bags, brought them in, and he yelled, "Hi guys," because he thought that I wasn't muted, and then he also was just like, 2 minutes, I promise. It's hard being the only, cook.
No,
that's hard.
Just in Sherwin's defense, he's pretty fast. Like we've gotten from a poi before.
He is.
And he's pretty fast. And he has like
5 orders right now because there's 4 of us, and then Sarah Oakes was supposed to be on the program tonight, but she's not feeling her tip top, so she's not on. She's feeling a little bit ill. So she's but we're still delivering food for her. And so he has like 5 orders to get together.
Well, and he has, I mean, this is the great thing is that he has a line as well of other people. And
show us
so
the line. Show us the line.
Well, I mean, right now it's like one person.
Oh, they're in their
but then there are
cars.
other
They're in their
people
cars, right?
And I don't want to like.
Right, sure.
Cars.
Of course.
But you know, that's good. I think he's just he's in high demand right now.
Yes.
So anyway, I thought that was hilarious. I was cracking up, and I was muted, so you couldn't, because I didn't want to interrupt. But that was the highlight of my night, is watching Sherwin grab all the bags. He's like, "Where's your car? Where's your car?" And then run back into the restaurant with them.
Oh my gosh! Well, I hope we get to see Sherwin tonight.
Yeah.
I now I'm so like thinking, but now my mind is on the food. I
have a couple of questions. That's a new version of Pacific Overtures.
It's just okay, Sherwin. Say hi.
Sherwin.
Say hi. Oh. Okay, we've got more. Sherwin's doing all.
I love you all.
Sherwin.
Oh my gosh.
All right. Thank you, Sherwin. Love you.
Love you guys.
All right.
What's up, Paul?
Bye.
That was amazing. All right.
God,
okay, now
amazing.
we're gonna go.
He's committed. You all got to order from a poi. And,
I know.
And Kevin's gonna put the information in the chat how to order from a poi. So
Yeah.
my family, in the meantime, my family behind the scenes has been trying to refill my drink. So my son's will come in, he's like, give me the glass, give me your glass, give me the bottle. And so this is Eric and Cole, everybody. Eric makes all my drinks. So anyway, they magically refill. So
Nice.
yeah, we have drinks, food. It's all going on right now, even though we're in isolation.
Yeah.
So I've been so my mind is now on food and drink. So what were we talking about?
Actually, I wanted a couple of things. One for Paul, one for Jen. The one for Paul is to tell us about your early experiences in New York and how you sort of got your career going there. Because we know you went to UC San Diego, right, for your MFA.
Right.
And you ended up going to New York instead of coming back to the Twin Cities, right?
Yeah. Well, what I was going to say is that, I felt at the time earlier, I was going to say that I went to UCSD. I wanted to get more training, and I'm glad I went to, I got my MFA. I did a lot of training, all of that stuff. But, it was kind of sort of a reflection of the real world too. My casting wasn't great in grad school. And I get to New York, and I swear the first couple of years were really, really hard, getting to know or getting involved with a new community, especially coming from Minneapolis, where I felt like, I felt like a good part of it. And then going to grad school, you're with the same 9 people every day for like 3 years, right? And then you go to New York, and it's a similar story for a lot of actors, but you go to New York and you got to figure out your way. And it took me a while. I have to say Ralph Pena was one of my first real supporters, and I'm so grateful to him too, and my theater. And slowly, eventually I got to know some writers, Asian American writers, and I kind of got involved with Mai Yi and Natgo, Mia Katigbak, and I'm forever grateful to those guys, and I'm still working with those guys today and to this day, and they're really good friends of mine. So I've gotten to know this community out here in New York really well. I mean, I had 3 seasons out in Oregon Shakespeare Festival, but it's been great to know and great to see the growth. And something like Kata, like when all these Asian Americans descended upon Ashland, Oregon a few years ago, it was like, what's
I was
going on here? You know, because I mean, Ashland is the center of Asian America. So, and I was really proud of that. I was just so proud of the people who were coming, who made the effort to make it out there. It was national, right? And it really, I think it was a really great show, and it was really a great show to show people like Bill Rausch, who's the artistic director of the OSF, and all the theater people out there. And I think about that experience. I was, doing rep theater, I didn't really have enough time to like hang out with everyone, but to see everyone around the campus, it was a great feeling.
Yeah, I was there.
New York, what's that? I'm sorry.
Oh no, go ahead, Paul.
Oh yeah, but back to New York. I feel good. I feel all these years you've seen so much growth, and that it's not these separate little enclaves now. It's really kind of this whole national community, I feel like, because I feel like actors in Minneapolis can get casted anywhere. All these Asian American, all this talent in Minneapolis can get casted anywhere across the country. And it's wonderful to see. And I didn't see that earlier. Right. So
yeah, and they are. And then Katie just came back before COVID lockdown happened. Katie was at Indiana Repertory Theater doing Murder on the Orient Express. So people are out there. I think she's at my house.
Done. One down. 50 more to go.
My food is here. Everybody. So I recognize my house. I'm like, I think she's at my house.
Who's next? Is it?
Yeah,
it must be me.
See. It may be Rick or maybe Jen, because we all live close to each other.
Oh yeah, it could be Jen.
You'll find out.
Yeah, we'll find out. So Paul, I'm glad that Paul mentioned Katja, because I was at Katja, and that's when I first saw Paul's work. I saw him in Winter's Tale, which Desdemona Chang directed at OSF. And it was lovely. So when Rick and I were talking, and he was saying, "Oh, Paul Juhn, was an early actor," I'm like, "Oh, I know his work. We should get him on." So I'm really grateful for that. That was, Paul's right. Like, that was an astounding moment when we all descended on OSF in Ashland. Yeah. And I remember seeing Viet Gone by Queen Wynn, and Maya Dralis directed it, she had been my director on Chinglish and the Laureate Tour. And I was that show really changed me. I really loved that show. So I have very fond memories of Katja from that time. And Jen, do you have an answer for Rick in terms of?
No, my question for Jen is, when we started Mu-daiko, how much fun was that? And your story about that.
Well, similar to not having any experience with Asian American theater, I had never heard of taiko drumming before. And it was Rick who rolled in one taiko drum at a Theater Mu open house event. And he took off his glasses, and he took off his sports coat, and he played maybe 40 seconds on the taiko drum. And everyone was blown away, because suddenly it was like, oh my gosh, Rick has muscles. Look at that. That's amazing. And it transformed him into this other person and this other energy. And it was really amazing. And so at the time, a bunch of us actors were like, you have to teach us how to do this. It's like a superpower. It's so cool. And he reluctantly did.
Yeah, my response was, doing theater was hard enough. Trying to do taiko and theater was crazy. But then people like Jen kept saying, no, they wanted to learn. So I said, okay, I'll teach you. And then in my own mind, I thought, if I teach them, then they will realize how hard it is, and they won't want to do it anymore. But so we
don't say that to an Asian. They'll just work harder.
Exactly. So we did a little concert we did a little performance out of that. And what happened was, I thought that performance at Intermediate Arts with Jen and several others, Zadawar, Iris Shirishi, who was the leader of Mu-daiko for a while, and still continues working with Jen. But I thought the end of that small concert at Intermediate Arts would be the end of it. And then, of course, Martha, my wife, but also one of the co-founders of Mu, said, no, there's gold in this performance form, because look at the audience, they're loving it. So I said, I guess we better keep going. And so then, of course, Jen and Iris became really the core players of the development of the company. And so the three of us really sort of developed the company from scratch, from people who had never played taiko before, from people who had never heard of taiko before. But when they saw it, they just, like Jen just said, wait a second, I want to do that. And so then we started developing that. And Paul will appreciate this. It finally came to a split stock. You know, when the stock rises to a point and then it splits? Well, that's what happened with Mu-daiko, in a sense that Mu-daiko became so big in our company that we had to change the name from Theater de Mu to Mu Performing Arts, so that you could have these two companies within the one company. But then when I left, actually, it then split off into two separate companies. But one of the things, on the one hand, I felt sad about that. But on the other hand, given what we saw Jen just did with that huge concert filling up the Ordway, 2,000 seats, right? With an international cast of players.
Yeah, and I think we have some video of that. Kevin's
Yeah,
going to
yeah,
show it.
it's
She
like
just produced her beat. And
amazing.
Jen, you can talk about more about that.
Yeah, amazing stuff that probably couldn't have happened had Mu-daiko still been within Theater Mu, right? Mu Performing Arts. It had to become its own entity. And then as that, Jen's crazy imagination took over. So you can talk about her beat a little bit, Jen.
Thanks for the tee up there, Rick. That's awesome. Well, it was sort of this life's dream project, but it kind of happened backwards, and it wasn't originally my dream. It was Tiffany Tamarabuchi. She's a trailblazing, phenomenal taiko solo artist. She was a guest artist, and we were, you know, eating, drinking, and we were sharing what our dream project was. And she said that I would love to bring the best female taiko players in the world together to perform together. And no one's ever done anything like that. And especially because, you know, the taiko history is fairly dominated by men. And so this would be a way to make a big splash. And I remember thinking, well, that's brilliant. It's a beautiful idea, but who is ever going to be crazy enough to do that? You know, bringing in international artists and having a huge budget and like dealing with, you know, so I kind of put that in my back pocket. And then I was having a meeting, trying to get a different production at the Ordway. And then I said, oh, but you know what my dream project would be? And then I pitched it and they loved it. And they said, if you do that, we'll give you a slot. This is what it will be. And then I pitched it to the Knight Foundation and they said, yes, here's some seed money. And then suddenly within like 3 weeks, we were suddenly producing this huge thing. And so it was groundbreaking for the taiko community and for the artists. And it was the biggest sort of production I'd ever taken on. It was sort of like 3 times our annual budget just for this one concert. But it was incredible, and now we filmed it, and so now we're in the process of editing the film to create a feature-length documentary film as well. But it's not because I ever set out to do that. It happened somehow, and it's that way of like, if an idea has legs, it starts to manifest itself almost. And so I just had to keep it moving forward.
But it takes someone to manifest itself.
Hey, Rick.
Come on,
Rick.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yours
my
is out
place?
there.
Okay. Martha, I'm gonna run away and get my food.
So Cole just delivered my food for me, and it looks so delicious. Wow. I have to say, oh my god,
I can't wait.
This is my food. I'm not gonna eat it on air. I will eat it later, but oh my god, it looks amazing. There's lumpia and longaniza and chicken and pork belly, rice. So go to Poi, everybody. Check it out. Paul's salivating. I'm sorry, Paul.
Whatever. Let's just move on, please.
So Jen, there's a few. You have fans out there too, Jen. Emma Hyun Jin Valentine's is her beat, exclamation point. And Lisa Smith said Jennifer Weir is a rock star.
They are the rock stars. They're the people behind the scenes who made it all possible and were running their rears off to the point of insane exhaustion and delirium, but they were amazing.
And Janelle Tagana Anderson says, wow, Taiko Lilith Fair.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was.
It was Taiko Lilith Fair.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
absolutely.
And Shelly Springov Quayla says, go Jennifer Weir, so great to see you share your story and be recognized for your amazing work.
She's one of the first guesses that really made that happen. So
great. Well, shout out to her. And I unfortunately, I think I was in tech for Peerless. So I couldn't, that was our production that we just closed in February. And so unfortunately, I was, one of my biggest regrets, I couldn't see it, but I heard from so many people that it was such an amazing event. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Katie, you've gone to me and Rick, is that right?
Yep.
Yes. Yep. So now I just need to go
to the airport.
You need to go
to the airport for Paul.
Because I got to get into JFK. I know, Paul.
Good,
I'm so
Kate,
sorry.
good.
So,
it's all right. I got ramen and stuff.
I had ramen for lunch today.
Me too.
So it's like saving me during this time. Like I need noodles. It's like my favorite thing in the world. I should go out and do more delivery. But so Rick, I want to go back in time a little bit because you had said that you weren't really a theater person initially, but that you're a writer, and then Philip Kongotanda, like, and maybe David Henry Huang encouraged you to turn a story into a play, and it became Yellow Fever, which is what Paul was in.
Yeah, that was one. I have a couple things. That's one of my favorite theater stories, in the sense that I was a terrible poet and a terrible prose writer, and still am. But I had, when I was working on the Powell Street Festival, which is a Japanese-Canadian festival in Vancouver, I was working on that and met a man who reminded me. His name is Gordon Cadota. He reminded me of Columbo, the TV detective. And so I wrote this story about him, sort of a detective comedy story. And it was like 100 pages, and I couldn't figure out why I suddenly could write 100 pages. Of course, it was terrible, but I gave it to Phil. I had the nerve to give it to Philip to look at it and see what he thought of it. And after a few days, he didn't say anything. And so finally, I asked him what he thought about it. And he said, he pulled out one page out of the 100 and said he liked that page. And so,
and it was a title page. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, that's the 1% solution, right? I'm an optimist. So instead of being discouraged by that, I asked him what he thought of it. And he said, oh, well, I like the dialogue on this page. And I thought, oh, that's interesting, because I hadn't even thought about dialogue in terms of novels or prose writing. So then he suggested that, or he asked me if I was interested in submitting it to the Asian American Theater Festival, Asian American Theater Company in San Francisco. And so, because he had worked with them. And so I said I would. And I did. And over a period of 2 years, I eventually was able to write this play called Yellow Fever, which has become my calling card. And there's Paul. You know, he was tremendous in that first production of Yellow Fever. And I've never been able to, I don't know if I've ever told Paul this, but this picture in particular, stay on this one. He really reminded me of my uncle, who did theater in the 1930s and even in the camps in the 40s. He just reminded me of my uncle, which is that kind of classic 1930s, 40s, 50s kind of Japanese American male look kind of thing. So it was really something, and he was terrific in it. And now that he's the right age to play the role, if I ever do it again, we'll have Paul do it, because he was like 23. Were you 22, 23?
Yeah.
When you did that?
Yeah.
Awesome. I
Great.
love these photos.
And there's Joe Germano, or what, playing Chuck.
That was a great time.
Wasn't that
That was a
memorable?
great that Francesca Carlin.
Francesca Carlin, yeah, playing
He
Nancy.
and
Wow.
yeah.
Wonderful production.
Mark Hayashi directed. That was
Yes,
really great.
Mark Hayashi was the director, amazing director, and really a mentor, because he actually was my dramaturg basically on the development of Yellow Fever. He was actually the one that helped me transform it from a very bad sort of short story into the play that it became. And then actually in the San Francisco production, Lane Nishikawa ended up directing it, and we actually made huge changes, not in the nature of the development of the script, but in the actual writing of the lines, because we changed a lot of the dialogue, but not, totally revamped it, just sort of improved. Because the more I saw in rehearsal, this is one of the things I love about rehearsal, the more I saw in rehearsal in San Francisco, the more I realized how the lines worked, and then I could adjust them so that they worked. And so by the time Paul did it in the Twin Cities for Mu, it was pretty much a set script. And then, but Mark came out and spent some time out here and then directed it. So
I will say, like, that's one example of Rick bringing somebody out from one of the coasts and, coming into our community. I mean, he probably saw these really hungry artists, but that was such a huge jolt for us, and to have him around and to have that experience around. I mean, I can't even tell you for me individually, personally, that was huge. And I learned so much from him.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to, there's so much rich history here in terms of just the huge steps that you helped you helped propel Rick, and we're so grateful for that. And I myself am so honored and grateful to be leading the company that you founded. It's really I can't even I can't even voice the gratitude I have for you, because when I knew about Mu and applied for this work, I knew that Mu had this reputation and this heart in doing so much great work and propelling Asian American theater forward. So I'm really grateful to you for that.
Thank you.
And so I wanted to check in with Katie again. All right, so did you just deliver to Jen?
Yes. So I got
okay.
And can I also just want to give just a shout out to Lars, because
we love you, Lars. We love you, Lars.
I can't even, like, he is finding his way around and doing it all without, like, he memorized all your addresses.
He did?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So he just he's and now we're heading back into Northeast.
You guys can eat, I mean, I won't feel bad.
I won't feel bad either.
Paul's like, I won't feel bad.
Whatever,
I did want to just chime in real quick about just talking about opportunity and everything with the Mu artists, and I do want to give just mad props to what Rick has done for the Twin Cities, and just on a personal note, what Mu, being located in the Twin Cities, what Mu has meant to me, just as far as opportunities, and what I think you guys have already touched upon this. I've been kind of going back and forth between listening and trying to multitask.
Right, you have a lot going on.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. But
stay
just
focused.
I know, yeah. I mean, Lars is focused on driving. I'm just like, all hooked up with wires and stuff. But I know, I even though I had training before I got to Mu, I know that I would not have had the training on the job had it not been for Mu. had they not existed where I grew up. I mean, I'm from the Twin Cities, and whoa, there's an ambulance. Sorry, squirrel. And I can't. Anyway,
Live broadcast, everybody. Live broadcast. This is why we love it.
And with me, who is like completely all over the place, but the the training that I received prior to Mu was good, but the amount of opportunities that I was given at Mu was tantamount to my training now. Like I wouldn't be the same performer if it weren't for Mu, and if it weren't for Rick giving me these opportunities to play characters like the witch and for Jen Weir. Yeah,
the witch was, you were so amazing as the witch. It was just amazing.
You. Yeah, and for like Ching Chong Chinaman that Jen directed, and how
here's some photos of the
was.
witch, of Katie as the witch. We have photos of you.
Oh, that's awesome! Oh my god!
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Oh, there's a video.
Oh, funny!
Yeah. Wow,
that's amazing. God, that's been so long.
Wow. You look beautiful. That's amazing.
Well, and the costuming was great. That was it Joanne Jongsma? I think. Yeah, that was, and that production was wonderful, and it
that cast was great.
Yeah, the cast was wonderful. It was just such a great experience to be in that room. And yeah, I mean, just but yeah, I just wanted to make sure that I said that in this interview, just how important Mu was. And I've spoken to some folks who have since left the community, who were originally in the community at Mu, and then have left for other states that are not as Asian centric, or where they don't have an Asian American theater company, and they have said to me, you know, that loss, that absence is very much apparent to them, and just their career, and how they don't feel like they have a home base, and they don't feel like they have the opportunities as a result of, you know, just not even having like the presence of an Asian American theater in the cities has raised the bar, I think, on social justice regarding Asian American talent and exposure and everything. So, yeah.
Yeah, one of the things I want to say is that in terms of the Asian American artists, theater artists, mostly performers that sort of had that opportunity with Mu, so many of them now are working at other companies. They're at the Jungle, they're at the Guthrie, they're at Park Square, so many other places, History Theater. It's so great. And that's one of the things I've always felt was important, that we give that opportunity, but that we don't become just an isolated place, kind of a niche place where only the Asians work. That all the talent that we were able to create and that came through had the ability to perform anywhere in the Twin Cities, and now they're performing everywhere. It's kind of amazing. Even I'm sure none of us could have dreamed that would happen, you know, 20 years later. It's just kind of amazing.
Yeah, I mean,
in Minneapolis, the Twin Cities is a really great theater town. I mean, I haven't lived there in years, but I keep looking back at the town and at those two cities, and there's so many great theater companies there, and the fact that Theater Mu talent is each one, it's a great testament to the company talent.
Yeah, thanks Paul, and thanks Rick. I think that, you know, coming here also, I didn't know, you know, I didn't know the totality of what Theater Mu represented, and I have to say there's a lot of both Asian American theater artists and non-Asian artists. And we witnessed that with Peerless, because there's 2 Asian American characters played by Francesca and Isabel Dawes, some of our favorite artists, and 3 characters that are played by non-Asian artists. There's 2 white characters and a black character. And, you know, people were like, you know, the auditions filled up in a second, and people were there, like they want to work with Mu. And and I've talked to Meredith Casey about it, who is a white actor who was in Peerless, and I love her work. And she said, you know, we want to work with Mu, like it's a great theater company and we want to be there. And so it's not just Asian American theater artists, it's a lot of theater artists who are not Asian who want to be part of Theater Mu, which is, I think, a testament to it's you know, what occurred here before I came, obviously.
Wow.
So yeah,
That's
yeah.
great.
Yeah. So I want to give, we're nearing the end of our hour and a half, and I really am grateful for all of you for being here and talking about Mu's history. But I also want to just honor the fact that we're all in unprecedented times, in an extraordinary time. And one thing that we do at Theater Mu on Mu-tini Hour is we have people share an object, and this came from Shannon Fitzgerald. We do this in our meetings at the staff meetings, and I thought I'd bring it into Mu-tini Hour when we all share an object that sort of helps us through this time of isolation. And so I'm inviting you all to share what you've brought, that an object that's sort of helped you, that's helped you through this time. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
I'm reluctant to do this because it is in fact giving my hand away. But if you see that, that's from Scrabble. And Martha and I play a lot of Scrabble these days, sitting at home and passing the time. And you can see that it says Blue Mu. And that's completely random. I didn't fix it. It just happened to be the letters. And now I have to show that to Martha. She's going to have an advantage now when we continue our game.
You're going to lose.
Oh, that's so cute, Rick. That was just by chance.
Yeah, that was purely by, I Scout's honor, that was by chance.
Can you show it again, and I'll take a screenshot so we have that for posterity?
Okay.
Wait, I don't know if I can do this. Wait, here we go. Okay. Cool, thank you. I love that. How random. Who wants to go next?
I'll go next. I'm just gonna bring it up here. Every morning, Lucas is working on Legos. So one of these 1,000 pieces that he'll ask, like, Appa, can you help me find this certain piece? And then I gotta.
Oh my God,
that's so
that's
cute.
Great. That's great.
Oh.
Take a screenshot of that. No, too late. Oh, too bad.
Legos, everybody does Legos.
Yeah, I know Paul has been spending a lot and enjoying the time he has with Lucas, which is, yeah.
At least that's what I've been telling you, yes.
I get it, Paul, I get it. How old is he?
He's 8.
8, yeah.
He's
So,
awesome. It's really, really great.
yeah, we have similar age kids, but it's a different challenge and blessing at the same time.
Right, you guys? Yeah, right.
And Jen, how about you?
My uke, which I can't play very well.
Yeah.
I'm working on it, and it's less obnoxious than a taiko drum. So.
I was gonna say we play a badass taiko drum, so I'm sure you're gonna get the uke. You know, I have to say this. I know like the moment has passed a little bit, but because we brought up taiko again, so. John G. Schill, who is one of our board members, he had made a comment that he got engaged the night of her beat.
Oh.
And actually his first date with his fiance was at a taiko event.
Oh, that's so awesome.
So you're part of the fabric of their relationship. So it really touched me. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, and Katie, I have a comment for you too. Wes Morey says, I guess Into the Woods was the first Moose show he ever saw, and he fell in love with Katie Bradley.
Oh, Wes! I love you, Wes.
So what do you have something to share, Katie? That you wanted to? Yeah.
You know, I just I brought my hat. It's kind of hard to see because it's black, but it's the reason why I brought it was Lars turned on the he's amazing. Because I brought my hat because it protects me. And I know this is sort of a somber note, but it makes me, it sort of hides my face when I'm out in public, especially at the grocery store, just as a result of, just the uptick of things that have been happening to Asian Americans out in public. And so, honestly, like this gives me just the ability to not be as panicked when I go outside.
Yeah. And racism is a virus, everybody. It's real. And I told Katie and some of you that when David Henry Huang was on a few weeks ago, I brought in my sunglasses because he and I had talked about hiding behind our sunglasses when we went outside so we wouldn't be the targets of racism. And it's very up for David because obviously he was a victim of a hate crime, before this whole COVID hit, because he was stabbed like, I don't know, 2 years ago or something. So Katie, I totally get it. Yeah. So I guess it's my turn. And I brought, Theater Mu, the staff has been amazing. Shannon, Tiffany, Audrey, and Kevin. And I got a gift last week, right before the Mu-tini hour with George Takei, Lea Salonga, and Jay Quo. And I opened, it was in this bag. And in the bag was a bottle of rye whiskey, which is in my drink because this is a whiskey sour. And they also brought me chocolate, and Toblerone and Ferrero Rocher, and a lovely card saying that just an encouraging card during this. We really that now that we can't do theater, we're really doing other work, and so it was an encouraging card through this time. So I'm sharing that as my show and tell because I'm really grateful to the staff at Theater Mu and for coming together and doing this work and being continuing allowing us to continue to be a space for Asian American artists to gather, even though we can't gather in person.
I think these Mu-tini hours have been great. They've really been so informative of all the people that are involved in Asian American theater across the nation. It's really been great.
Thank you, and thanks so much for all of you to be on that are on with us tonight. Rick, Jennifer, Paul, and Katie. And Katie, thanks for delivering our food. Did you? Where are you, Katie, in that process? Like, are you home?
We are almost home.
Oh, good. Okay.
We made it.
I thought it was the doorbell.
You made it. You delivered food to all of us. So I am going to eat my food after this is over, which will be over in a few minutes. And so I wanted to thank everyone for joining us. And thanks to you all. To keep up with our guests, you can check out their websites and their Facebook feeds. And I think Kevin has gotten the links to those into the chat. And I also wanted to say, if you like our programming tonight and what we've done in the past, feel free to donate. And also please donate to Taiko Arts Midwest. Their link is also in the chat. So support Jen's company because they're doing amazing work. And also Rick, we didn't mention it before, but Rick is the artistic director of Full Profile Theater.
Co-artistic director of Full Circle Theater Company.
Full Circle Theater, sorry. And along with Martha. And you can check, what's your website, Rick?
It's fullcircletheatermn.org. And our main production next year is going to be Fire in the New World, which is my new play, which is a Sam Shikaze play from when he was a young man. It's going to be at Park Square next May, June.
Great. So Full Circle Theater, everybody, check out Rick's company and check out Paul and Katie's work and Jen's work at Taiko Arts Midwest. For next week, Snehal Desai, the artistic director of East West Players, the oldest Asian American theater company in the country. He's joining me with some of our friends to talk about Asian American theater, both past and present. We'll look at the early days of AAPI theater and where it's headed today. So if you like this programming, come join us next week. You can like our page, Theater Mu, and you can find out more information at theatermu.org. And also, donate if you'd like. And so, you know, be safe, everybody. All of you be safe. Thanks so much. And if you four could stay on, we'll say goodbye outside of the live chat. And thanks so much, all of you, for joining us. We hope you learned something about Mu tonight. And if you have any questions or comments for us after this chat, you're free to, you know, include that in the comments or email us at info@theatermu.org offline, and we'll get back to you. Thanks so much, everybody. And thanks for going to
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.